Okay. All right. So, yes.
I think if anyone has a question along the way, you can just unmute and talk. Because at times you may raise your hand and no one is going to be able to see it. So kindly, if you have a question or a comment, you can unmute and speak, or maybe put it on the chat box. Thank you. Mama, you can take over.
All right. So, today we are going to introduce Python, and Python is one of the most popular programming language. It has a lot of community support. Mm. Because it is also popular because it can be used in different fields. Like for instance, in web development, we have frameworks like Flask and Django, and also it can be used in web development. Actually, I've said web development, but it can also be used alongside software to create workflows, and it can also connect to database system. And I think as we go along, we'll understand how to do that. And also, Python can be used to handle big data and also perform, complex mathematics. And then also one of the key thing about Python is that it can be used for the rapid prototyping or maybe for production ready software development. So I'm going to take you from the very basics, like from installing Python all the way to where we shall reach. I do not want to, make it like a very long one, but wherever we shall cover, I think we shall resume it the other time, next time. So now the first thing that you want to do before working with Python is to ensure that you have Python in your system. I know most operating systems usually come with Python pre-installed, but if you want to confirm that you have Python or not, you can open your command line tool, for instance CMD, and then do a check by running Python and then a dash v or a version, and then if it will list for you here the Python version, then it will mean that you have Python in your system. And then another important thing that you need to have when working with Python is a package manager called a PIP. PIP is the package manager. For instance, if you want to install some modules like Jupyter Notebook, you want to install something like a NumPy, SciPy, Pandas, all those Python packages, you need to have this package manager called a PIP. Just like in any other, frameworks or a language, like for instance, Node. If you want to work with, to create a React application, you need to have maybe a Node package manager. So for Python, we use PIP. So to check if you have PIP, you do a PIP and then also dash version, and then if you run and then you see that you have I've written something else, so it should be PIP dash version. I think this is the spelling. Yeah, so if it will list for you PIP version here, and then it will mean that you have these are PIP in your system. But if you don't have, don't worry. I'm going to show you how you can download. By the way, it's a good practice to have this, the stable version of, Python in your system, or maybe the near latest. But it's not a good practice to be working with the latest stuffs because it can have maybe incompatibility issues with other modules. You always want to work with something that is stable, can support other, modules. So let me try to uninstall, then I'll reinstall this Python with you. Let me try to uninstall Python. I don't know if it will take long, but I hope it won't. Let me find Python 3 and then uninstall, because I want to show you how to install it, correctly, because there are some things that you need. Like for instance, you'll be working with we will be working with you know sometimes on visualization we'll be working with another module called matplotlib for a visualization. So we need to have a module here called a GUI compiler when installing Python called tkinda. So for you to be able to visualize some stuff in Matplotlib. Also, during the installation, you need also to install that pip when you install in Python, so that at least you may not struggle to download the pip separately and then adding it to your, path and all that. So you don't want to go into that direction. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So is it continue to remove? Let me show you how you can access Python to download Python. So just type, you go to your browser and then you search, a Python dot org, python.org. And then I know some of you have some basic skill on Python, but because we are putting the video on YouTube, it might land someone who is totally beginner. We don't want the back and forth, stuff. So we want, like, if a beginner wants to access the content, can learn these basics. So don't worry if you are have some, but along the way I'll be sharing something that can also be useful for an advanced coder. So it is important that you we just follow along, and then I think we'll learn a lot. So you can see by the time we are doing this video, the version of Python is Python 1.12, this one, but mine it was a bit older one. It has completed uninstalling. Let me remove everything of Python, and then I'll show you how to do it in a correct way. So you go to the Python website, and then you go to the download page, and then you download for your operating system. Mine is Windows, and then you just click on it, then it's gonna download that Python for you. So let me give it some, I don't know if it's downloading. Yeah, it's downloading. Let me give it some time so that it can download as I try to uninstall these other ones. So now when I try to do a search, for instance, I say pip and then a dash version. You'll see that I won't have that. No, it is not PIP. Python, I should have begun with Python. Of course, also you can see the PIP is removed because I removed Python. I say that it usually comes with Python pre-installed. When you are installing Python, it comes with a PIP, and I said the PIP is the package manager to install the Python modules. So Python version or a V. Let me try V this time. You can see Python was not found. Alright, let me do the version because we might think that is a different command. So when I do again the version, you can see it still says the Python version is not found. Maybe on your system can be telling you this way. So basically, when it does that, go to the Python website, and then I go to download. Then let me try to install now. To install now to the system. So the first thing that I want to do is to add it to the path, and then this one you can leave it by default. This one you can just this one I'm not sure about it, but if you wish, like you want to check it, you can do. But I'm not sure about this one. But this one, to add it to the path, it is quite important. And then here you just click on the install. Then it's going to install everything, every package. Like the other time, the old versions of Python, you had to click the check boxes, like if you want to install the PIP, if you want to install the tkinda, and some other modules. But in the latest versions of Python, when you just do the install, it will come with all those packages. You won't have to struggle to check each individual package to install. So it will come with the tkinda, and I said that that tkinda is GUI compiler for Python. like we have a framework like a module or a library called Matplotlib. If you want to visualize stuff, and then you need to have that GUI compiler so that you may be able to see the visuals, in your coding or maybe in your execution. So as I wait for it to download, to install, basically Python can be written on a command line tool, but it's not a a best practice. You need to use an IDE. An IDE is like the interface strictly or maybe specific for that language that has maybe some autofilled how can I put it? Like when you are trying to type something, then it suggests for you how can I put it? Auto what? Auto suggestion, or I mean, I'm not sure about the correct word to use. Like maybe an ID is something advanced, specific to that language. It can color some function and such stuff. And one of the IDE in Python is maybe if you're working maybe on data science stuff, so the best IDE can be something like a Jupyter Notebook or that Google Colab and some others. But if you are into software, you can do the PyCharm or maybe Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is very very powerful. Maybe if you're working on web development, you can on Python. Basically, if you're using Django or a Flask to do the web, I think you can. It is very very nice. So we've installed the latest Python.
Yes, Nehemiah, sorry for cutting you short.
No problem. Yes.
I believe we have so many new people, like people who are new into coding and programming.
Yes.
Some people even don't understand what Django and Flask is. Maybe you can try and elaborate those packages, or rather those Python libraries. Like you're explaining it to laymen so that we can understand easily
Oh,
and we can be on the same page.
very
Like
very
IDE, what is it in full, integrated develop, such things.
wonderful, wonderful insights. So I think thank you so much for that. And I believe now I have some people following. So basically, as we introduced Python, I said that Python is a popular programming language, and it can serve in several fields. And one of the field that Python can be used is like in web development. Now, in web development, Python can be used directly. We have other frameworks within Python. For instance, on web, we have a library or a module called Django. Django is now maybe specifically used on the website or maybe on the software to create some software. And also another on the web is Flask framework. So another framework is Flask, can also be used on web. And by the one of these, maybe these are popular, powerful, websites. For instance, YouTube and Spotify and some other Pinterest. These are powerful websites were built. Python was used among other languages to build these powerful, sites. So Python has been used by many, developers. So when I say Django, today I'm going to focus strictly on the data science stuff. So these things I'm not going into details. I'm just mentioning, but I'll fully focus on data science stuff, or maybe the Python itself, the genre for a beginner. But as I'm trying to go along, I just want to mention some things here and there, but you don't have to grasp, you don't have to master, you don't have to know what is Django and all that. I'm just mentioning these are stuff. Of course, Python can also be used in system scripting. It can be used in mathematics to perform, those are complex mathematics, and we shall know all of that as we go on. So I just want to begin in a beginner base. For a beginner, like I'm trying to as I'm trying to do some other stuff, so I'm trying just to maybe explain some things here and there. But as I wait, for example, a program to complete, but I'm going to begin in a very, very basic way so that people will understand. I believe at the end of it, people will understand. So you don't have to know what is Django, but what I can talk about the IDE is the Integrated Development Environment. Like, for example, you can code on Notepad. Notepad, this is like just a word document. You just write there some word. It doesn't have some, those suggestion and all that. But an IDE is like, a powerful tool that handles that language. For instance, if it's Django, if it's Python, sorry, if it's Python, for example, if you're working with Python on an IDE like Jupyter Notebook, it will give you some suggestion. For example, you can tell, for example, if you want to use a method, we shall talk about methods or a function later. You just begin to type something, then it can do it can give you some preview of some of the function that can be used in that language. So we are going to understand these things as we go on, but I don't have to master these things that I'm talking about. These are complicated stuff. That's just to, like, I'm just using it as a filler. Sometimes when I'm waiting for something to download or maybe to finish, I just talk something random. You don't have to master those things. We are going to begin from the very, very basics. So I believe by now you've understood how to. So the key thing, but by the way, that you can catch from what I've covered so far is maybe to how to check if you have Python in your system, and also how to install a Python, and some of the important modules that you need to have at the initial stages of Python. For instance, the PIP, that package manager to install the Python modules. Like Python can't work just like a language itself. It needs to be supported by their framework, some frameworks to handle some specific a task. Like we said that Python, it has a lot of community support, and it means it has a lot of packages inside Python. So you won't have to download all those packages inside your system. You just want to use what it can be used in your system. So basically, you need that PIP to install that specific package that you will be using. I know we shall learn more about these libraries as we go on, but for now, what you need to know up to this point is how to check if you have Python in your system, and also how to download, and some of the important packages that you need to have at the initial stages of Python, like a PIP and TK-index, especially if you want to visualize stuff. But most important is the PIP. So I believe up to that point we are, together. At this juncture, don't worry about the IDEs and complicated stuff like the Django and those things. Someone can unmute and talk. I can't see the other side. Are we together? Have I lost someone?
Together.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, like I was saying, Python can be written basically on this command line, interface, command line tool, but it's not, a proper way to do that because it's not that professional. So you have an IDE where you can write your Python code. Now, let me try first of all to check. I've just downloaded the latest Python, so let me just confirm first of all if I have Python in my system. Version. I can see I have that latest version. I'm not sure if it's the latest, but it is the one that I've just downloaded. Then also let me confirm if I have that PIP. And then let me do this. Let me search for type version. And then you can see I have the latest I'm not sure if it's the latest, but I have PIP in my system. I can use it now. So for instance, you can write here a Python command. For instance, let's use a print. Print is a Python function to execute some code, or if you want to visualize, or maybe if you want to see some output in the console, or maybe in the terminal, use the print function. We shall talk more about the print functions as we go on. But let me just type here something called let me just type hello, hello world. So you can see it can be print hello world. Let me try again. Print, and then let me try an integer. I'm not sure why it's not working. However, you can write these commands on the terminal, but it's not a proper way. So we usually use some IDEs to write some Python codes. For instance, for data science, we'll more specifically deal with Jupyter Notebook, and a Jupyter Notebook is very, very powerful. It's very, very powerful because you can write there the markdowns, you can write the codes, you can execute some code, some parts of the code and all that, and you can do the debugging line by code by line of code by some specific parts that you wish. So we have a module called Jupyter Notebook. Let me show you how to download. Of course, you can use Anaconda to have that Jupyter Notebook. But for instance, your system doesn't support Anaconda. So your system maybe doesn't, or maybe you have a lot of programs, but you just want to use, for example, if it's Jupyter Notebook alone, you don't want to have the entire Anaconda. You can see like Anaconda usually come with a lot of packages for data science and the machine learning. And maybe you are just a beginner here, you don't want to do things with those stuffs, just want to use Jupyter Notebook to learn Python. So you can now use this is the significance of having PIP. You can do the PIP install Jupyter Jupyter. So this is the command now to install not Jupyter to notebook, should be notebook. PIP install notebook. Then when you run, it will install that Jupyter notebook in your system, and I'm going to show you how you can use it in your system. But if you are maybe if you are scared about the commands, I'll show you also how to do how to use the Anaconda environment. It is easy also the other side, but it will come with a lot of things that maybe you don't want. And now the goodness of working with the Anaconda, you can have environments. For example, if you just want to work with Python, like at this juncture, we are using the latest version of Python. But for instance, you want to work with the older version of Python, but I don't want to affect other programs. For example, you are coding, a website or maybe an application that runs on a Python, the latest version, but you want to do something in the older version of Python, so you don't want to mix those, programs. So what you do, the goodness of working with the Anaconda, you can do it. You can run on different environments. It doesn't affect your root the system, Python or as such. So working with the Anaconda is very, very important. But for example, if your system has a few less resource, then you can do individual stuffs. For instance, if you want to work with this Jupyter Notebook, you can just do the PIP and then install it. As I'm waiting for it to complete, I'll show you how it can be used. So the command to install Jupyter Notebook is just pip install notebook, not Jupyter. Just say pip install notebook. Then it will install Jupyter Notebook into your operating system. I'm talking a lot as I wait for this thing to finish. And by there, when working with or maybe when doing the programming, it is very, very fundamental to understand also how to use the CLI or a command line interface to work on the, like for example, if you were to install something like something like maybe Jupyter Notebook or maybe something else, you could go to the web and then I'll look for the documentation, how to add it to the path. But if you understand how to do the command lines, commands in the command line, you can just do the PIP and then it completes for you. For example, if you are working with the Linux, to install complicated things, you don't have to go to the web and do those things. You just do run some simple command, then it's going to do magics for you. So working with the command line, understanding how to use the command line is sometimes important aspect. So today we are going to cover the basics. Don't worry about many things that I'm talking about here. I don't want to leave like blank, the session silent as I wait for these things. Just talking my things, my random things. Or maybe let me do this. I said that I will have, Anaconda environment. So, for instance, if you have a very good machine, and then I recommend that you do the Anaconda environment, download the Anaconda. It usually comes with a lot of data science modules that you wonder how to do the PIP install, because it will come with all those stuff. If you want to use it, you can just search it in the Anaconda and then use it. So to install Anaconda, just go to the website, to the search bar, then you type Anaconda again, then .org, Anaconda, then .org, and then you go to the download section, download Anaconda, and then you can download the free version. And then you can see here in these few descriptions here, they say that it's a free distribution install. There are thousands of the most fundamental data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning packages. You can see thousands of them. And then you can manage packages in the environment from desktop application. So you can manage manage different environments just in a single program. You don't have to download to buy different computers, for example, to run Python something version something, or maybe a different version. So everything is just inclusive in this one. So you just click on the download, then to install. If you have ever installed any open source software from the internet, the step is just straightforward. Just click on the install, then next. A program like, for example, this Anaconda is just safe, so you don't have to worry about security stuff. So you just download and then you install the installation. I don't think it's complicated for anyone. So let me open another. Oh, it has finally finished. So we have now Jupyter Notebook. Now, for example, if I want to navigate to a different program in a different directory, when I talk directory, I talk about the folders or the path. For example, a directory is like, for example, let me open my file explorer. A directory can be something like, for example, this is called the desktop application, or maybe this test is a directory. This thing is a directory. This folder thing. When I talk about directory, I mean these folders. For example, document folder, the download folder, and stuff. So, for example, if you want to navigate to different folders on the command line tool, you don't have to do this. You can just do it manually, but you can do the CDs to change directory. For example, if you want to navigate to let's say desktop, you just type there desktop, then it will navigate to desktop. And for example, if you want to make a directory, you want to create a directory. When I say directory, remember I said it's like a folder. So for example, let me say something like, to make a directory, use this command mkdir, then you can call it, for example, let's say that, let me just say tutorial, something like tutorials. This is a command to create a directory. Now, when you go to the desktop, you will find a folder called tutorials. It's empty. We've just created with the command line. Remember, you can just click here, create new folder. But I want to show you, the hard way, so that maybe in future, you can use the commands. By the way, when you are familiar with the command line tool, it won't be hard. It won't be that hard. So you can again do the cd, then tutorials now to that directory that you have just created, and then now so in that section, then now we've just installed Python in the system wide. We just installed that, not Python Jupyter Notebook. We've installed Python. It came with a PIP, and we've installed the notebook. Now to use the notebook inside this folder, you can do them. Just type there Jupyter notebook. Jupyter Notebook, and then you hit enter. It's going to open Jupyter Notebook in your default browser. It's going to open Jupyter Notebook in your default browser inside that directory. Like at the moment it's so empty. Let me give it time to open the Jupyter Notebook. I don't know why it's taking forever. And then here you can create here a new Jupyter. Just click here new, and then a notebook, and then in this notebook you can rename the notebook here at the top. But there, am I going faster? Are you following? Is everything okay?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
In case of anything you do like Ian, you just shout and then say you are going too fast, or maybe you are doing things that we don't understand. I'll try to explain. I'll try to make you understand. So let me just call it tutorials. So this is how you can use the Jupyter Notebook. You can see we haven't installed that 1 gigabyte program. We've just used like, I don't think even Jupyter Notebook is like a 20 MBs. It was you saw while we were installing, it was some bytes. It's a very small file. For example, if your system doesn't have a lot of space, or it doesn't have a lot of resources to install large programs, you can just install individual program. Then you can just work with these. You can see now the kernel is Python 3 that we are using. Alternatively, I say that you can download the Anaconda. Someone talking? So another way I say that is to use the Anaconda environment. You just download. I've shown you how to download. You go to the anaconda.org, then at the download page, then you download the free version, and then once you install, you'll have an interface like this. This is the Anaconda Navigator, and then so it will list for you programs available. Like you can see, we have the Jupyter Notebook. Like at the moment, this is the root. You can see the base, the environment is root. So this one picks any program, any development programs that is installed, then it will list here as launch. For instance, for me, I have the Visual Studio Code. You can see it is here. I launch, not installing. It will leave. But if you have a new environment that doesn't have this thing, you can just do what? You can just go to the environment, and then install the program maybe that is missing. For example, if it's notebook, you don't do a search on Jupyter, just tap search notebook. You'll find notebook. You won't find Jupyter. You just do notebook, and then it is here. Then you install. You saw also while we were using the command line tool, we did pip install notebook, not Jupyter Notebook. But when you want to use it, you type Jupyter Notebook. So once you have it, you can launch it via this side button. You can go to home as well. Then do click on what? Click on launch. Click on launch. All these methods will do it. Will open a new Jupyter Notebook. And let me give it some moments to open. Yeah, so and then the other thing, once you have launched this Anaconda environment, like when you see that it's working on the web, don't close it. Don't close this Anaconda environment, because this is the environment that is running your Jupyter Notebook on the web. So once you close this Anaconda, Anaconda environment the other side, it will automatically disconnect this environment here. So you don't want to do that. And then again, I'm going to navigate to the desktop. Sorry, I missed something. To it was desktop, then a tutorial. This is the folder that we've just created, and there is currently, it has this folder that we created the other side, the other time. So let me just click on it. Alternatively, you can just click here. You select the kernel here, Python 3, and then it will open. It will create a new, a new, is it a Jupyter file, a notebook file there. So basically, this is how you can access this IDE. I believe people have understood maybe how to create the ID, how to access this Jupyter, notebook on your system, because this is what we'll be using mostly on data science. Are we good up to this juncture?
Nehemiah,
Yes, please.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I have tried installing the notebook via the command prompt, but it's not working.
What's the command that you used? Did you check that you have Python and also PIP?
Yes, I don't have Python, but I have Anaconda.
You have Anaconda?
Yes.
Basically, Anaconda usually come with Python, but what you can do, try in the command line tool, you can do the Python then a dash version. Or are you able maybe to display your computer? We see how you're doing it.
Nehemiah,
Or maybe you try first. Yes, someone.
can she just get the Python from Anaconda? Since the Anaconda.
Yes, I have it in Anaconda. I was just curious about how you installed it using the command prompt. But it's okay. Let me just try. I'll keep on trying and see.
Yeah, basically what you'll do, just do the Python, then a dash version to see if you have Python.
Okay.
Maybe Python is only on that environment, but it's not. Like I said, that Anaconda, it will come with these individual environment, like these programs within that environment. For example, if you install Jupyter Notebook, it won't be in the system. It will just be in that environment. So you can do a check on the system with the command line tool. Just type there Python space dash version. Then you see if you have Python.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other question, maybe?
Okay, Nehemiah, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought, let's say if I have Python in my machine.
Yes.
Let's say it doesn't matter where I have obtained it from. Maybe if I have obtained it from Anaconda or just from the website of Python, the system will automatically identify, or rather read it, that I already have Python installed in my system, regardless of where I obtained it from. So that's why even if I go to VS Code and just open, it even gives me a suggestion of Python extension. I don't know, maybe you can clarify on that if that's the case or not.
Oh, sure. When you you install it system-wide, like when you go to the website and then you install Python, you are installing it in the system-wide. But when you install something in the environment, for instance, if you install something in the Anaconda environment, it is in that environment alone. So Anaconda works within the environment, doesn't affect the system. But when you install maybe Python in the system, maybe in that in your computer alone, it will be available across all programs you have. For instance, when you go to the Visual Studio Code, it will be there. When you go to PyCharm, when you just launch Jupyter Notebook, it will be there. When you install it in the system wide, but something that you install it in the Anaconda environment, it will just be within this environment. That's why I said that. For instance, you are working on different programs. For example, you are developing an application, and that is supported, for example, on the old version of Python, and then you have another thing that runs on the latest version of Python, you can have different environments of different programs so that it doesn't affect something else, the other. So Anaconda environment helps you uh, to work with different environments. It doesn't affect your system, but what is in the system, it is affected across even in this Anaconda environment. Of course, you can adjust things so that you can work with what you need, but what is in the system is affected across all the programs. So, but what is in the environment is it doesn't affect what is in the system. I don't know if I've answered.
Yeah, sure. Awesome.
Okay. So
Question.
yes, please.
Does this mean that, like the way you are checking like what Python version you have and what not, you went to the website, you downloaded Python to your system, and then once you download Python, then that's how you were able to now use the pip install command to install the, what is it called? Jupyter, the notebook.
Jupyter. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So are we good now to begin? I want to begin with some basic things like the markdowns before we even begin the coding. Before we begin coding Python, I don't know if we are comfortable up to this point we begin. If there's a reaction the other side, I can't see. You just unmute and speak because I can't. And also the other thing, I want to avoid going to that side because in Kenya there's this Data Protection Act 2019 that I always fear. That's why I don't want to expose someone's information. That's why I always avoid. So you just unmute and then you speak. So I believe we can begin. I want to begin with some basic Markdown commands. And I'll be brief on this one. I won't go to details because understanding these are Markdown. Like these are Markdown, they help you. For instance, if you're working with if you're working on a program, or if you're, for instance,
Nehemiah,
yes, please.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
How do I get the PIP on my Nini Python?
So to check or to check it.
No, yes, either to check it or to know if it's on my Python.
Now, if you've downloaded the Python from the website, basically Python from I don't know which version, but if you have the latest version, it will come automatically with a PIP. It will come automatically. Yes.
I have a 3.113.
Yeah, that support that has a PIP. So if you want to check, you can do the PIP, then space.
So the PIP space.
Then 2 hyphens, 2 dashes, 2 hyphen. I think.
Dash or hyphen?
I think they are the same. You can do a hyphen. I think hyphen. What is in your keyboard? I think it's hyphen. And then version. 2 hyphens, then a version.
Version.
Then you hit enter.
Okay, PIP is not defined.
This is the command PIP.
Let me see.
Version. Version. I've written. This is a spelling. I think this is a spelling for version. PIP.
Yeah. Could you send it on the chat?
Yes, let me do that.
Okay. Let me see if it works.
Okay.
maji iko pale mwisho. Bado ni error.
Bado ni error. Hebu jaribu sasa kwenda kwa nini kwa the Python website and then download Python.
So I uninstall this one first.
Yeah, you can install that one. Then you go to the website and download the latest.
Okay, thank you. Let me try that first.
All right, you are welcome. So maybe a quick overview on this Jupyter notebook. We see we have some tabs here. We have the file type. By the way, here I changed the name to tutorials. Alternatively, initially it was undefined. When you just launch a new Jupyter notebook, it will be undefined. So what you do, just click there, and then you can give it a name. Me, I gave it tutorial. You can give it your preferred name. Then here you can see we have some tabs. For example, if you click on files, you can see you have other options, edit, and
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Can someone do an upgrade if, like now, what she has said, she has it already instead of uninstalling? Can someone do an upgrade, Ama you have to uninstall and install again?
I believe when you want to upgrade, you have to go to the website. Even if you haven't uninstalled, the system will automatically that you are doing the latest. I'm not sure if you can use the PAP itself to upgrade, but just go to the website and then when you download and install, it will automatically replace the old version. Though you'll have both, but the latest one will be there as well. It will be there. I'm not sure about that though, but I believe once you go to the website, I think it will kind of replace the old one, or it will have both. But for me, I'd recommend to uninstall before using installing the latest one. But I didn't try it the other way. So. Any other concern, maybe question before we begin? I have 27 minutes remaining. So once you give me a thumb up that we begin, we continue, then we shall continue. Can I proceed? Do you guys still have challenges up to where I've reached, or you are good? Or I'm lost? Maybe I'm the one who is not in the meeting. You can speak so that I see I have people at the background. Maybe I'm not present.
We follow you.
Okay. So I was just trying to, at your convenience, you can go through each tab and try to explore it. But because of time, maybe I'll show you what I'll be using. Basically, I'll be showing you what I'll be using. Like for example, if I want to save a file, you can see there's these tabs here. You can go on each one and try to explore individual. You do want to have an help to see some help, you can go there and all this stuff. But and to create a cell, just click here to insert a cell below. You can delete a cell. Let me try to create a cell with this plus, and then you can use this one to cut or maybe to delete the selected cell. The selected cell is this one. For example, let me type something here. Then I use this cross. You can see it is deleted. And then this other one is to duplicate. This one is to make a copy of the cell. You can see. Let me try to have on it. When you have, you can do a copy of the cell, and then this one is to paste the cell. So you can see it is a copy. Now, if you want to navigate maybe from say cell at the bottom to the cell at the top, you can do this one. And then this one is for bottom. And then, for example, if you have a command here you want to run, let me delete this one. Let me say something like hello world. I want to run this one. I'll use this command, this run button, then it will run. So if I want to stop, for example, if it was executing something, but there we shall reach a place. I don't know if it's to another time where we shall be handling the loops. Sometimes you can have a loop that you mistakenly wrote that continues to infinity. So it might consume your system resources. For example, if you don't know how to do it to stop it, so you do the stop here. Then maybe to refresh, you can do this. And then to restart the kernel, the kernel, you can click here. Alternatively, you can go to the kernel here, then restart. To restart the kernel is like to restart this Jupyter notebook. Like you can see at the moment we're using Python 3 IPyKernel. So when you restart it's like to refresh something, the entire stuff. And then here we have like this cell. The moment the code is selected, so it means that you are writing Python code. Remember, it is an IDE for Python. You can't write here a Java code, C++ code. It is specifically Python. That's why we talked about the IDE. They are specific to a particular, language. And then, of course, you can change here from the Anaconda environment. You can even use R on a Jupyter and all that. Or maybe use magic commands to write different programs, but specifically this is an IDE for Python. And then also we have another one called Markdown. Markdown, this is where you can write something like a description. Like I think you've ever gone to a GitHub repository, but before you access the code, you can see we have some description there about what the project is and all that. So those are usually the Markdown. Or maybe you just prompt ChatGPT to write for you something. The response that it provides it is in Markdown command. Let me do that. Let me just search for ChatGPT. Then let me say write for me a simple Python program, and then I run it. So let me give it include a code, include sample code. So basically, this response is usually in a Markdown, commands. So, and I'll show you everything. Even if we just spend all this time to understand these basics, I think it's more fundamental because it will be a very very important aspect in your career because it's very very important, I think. So let me copy this. I've just click here to copy. Then I want to paste this code here. You'll see the kind of code that it will provide there. So you can see, for example, this part where it was Python code, where it provided this code. You can see it has what? It has three. It began with three dashes, three backticks, then the language name, and then it ends with this one. And then for example, if it were heading somewhere, you'll see some hashes and all that. So it usually provides the response in Markdown commands. Or maybe if you have a GitHub repository, and then I want to include some documentation so that people can just see the content, the project description. Like we have other things like the docstring or comments, but now those are inline there, the codes. But now the Markdown, this one you can use it like just a separate file with the extension .md. You can use it to describe Amalia, sorry guys, to describe your project to people. So I'm going to talk about these Markdowns commands so that you may know how to code the Markdowns. So like we have a very very wonderful language for markups and stuff called HTML. but I think it's kind of complicated for beginners. So these are markdown. Is it language? How can I call it? Markdown, commands. This helps you to simplify stuff. Like in HTML, you have heading 1 to heading 6. You have to define it in code. But here, for example, if you want to define heading 1 in Markdown, you just use a hash. Then let me say heading 1. So heading 1 in Markdown is like at the highest heading. Heading 2 is the least heading. So let me try to run something else. Let me use heading 2. It goes all the way to heading 6. Heading 2, I'll say heading 2. I'm using heading 2 for instance, but in your project, for example, it can be something like a program for something, or maybe something descriptive, but for the interest of learning, I'm using heading 1, heading 2. So for example, let me try to run. You can see heading 1 is like at the highest heading 2 the least. It goes all the way to heading. Let me try to make heading 3. I'll use 3 hash, so it will be heading 3 all the way to heading 6. I won't explain everything. Let's say heading 4. So it goes in that hierarchy, like heading 1 is the highest heading 2 is the least heading, and in that hierarchy up to heading 6. Like in HTML, we use the tags, but here just use the hash. The single hash defines the highest heading. Then in that hierarchy. So for example, in your project, you might want to have the mega heading, subheading, and all that. So you can use these commands. Now, if you want to write, like you can see here, we are using a hash, but in the execution, on the display, on the terminal, it is in words. It doesn't include this hash. So this is about the heading. It goes all the way to heading 6. And then we have the paragraph. So for paragraph, you don't have to define it. You can just say this is a paragraph. This is a paragraph. This is a paragraph. If you want to create a line break, you can just click there and then do a line break. Let me say this is, and the second paragraph. Is it a paragraph or a sentence? Paragraph. Let me say paragraph. Now, when you run, you can see it is like just normal paragraph. And then I think you can distinguish. You can check. You can see like a paragraph is totally different from a heading. Like the heading, it has some weights. You can see it's kind of bold and stuff. And then the paragraph is just a normal text. So this is about the heading in the paragraphs. And then the other thing. Can be that I can talk about maybe is maybe on formatting still. I can talk about the for example, you want to make a text italic, or maybe you want to make a paragraph bold. So how can I put it? Let me create here a comment. Let me use a hash, and then here let me say 1. Let me say headings. Yeah, let me use headings. Then heading 1, heading 2, and then here I can use. So I'm trying as much as I can to be somehow descriptive, so that someone can learn. Let me use. I could use 2 hash. 2 hash. Then here I'll say paragraphs. Paragraphs. And sometimes when I talk and I type, I can write my things. So guys, I believe you will understand it. Perhaps if I have written something which doesn't make sense, you just correct me, because I don't know how to multitask things. I'm just trying. And then the other thing, let me talk about the formatting. Should be formatting. And by the way, you ensure that you at least add some white space here before the wording. So you, like if you want to add the hash, at least you create some white space there. So formatting. Text formatting to be clear, but let me just use formatting. So for example, if you want to make a text italic, for those who have tried to use to make a text italic on WhatsApp, you understand some basics. You usually use this thing called asterisk. Then let me say, no, this is for bold. For example, if you're using WhatsApp, but in Markdown, this one is to make the text italic. Let me say, this is this is an italic text, and then you can do a close with that one, and then about let me try to run. Then you can see it is italic. And then you double click. If you want to return back to this one, you double click, and then there's also another way to make the text italic, is to use now the underscore. Then let me say this is also an italic text, and then when you do a run, you'll see that it is also an italic text. And then the other thing, I'm just trying to rush to give you the basics, some the other one is to make a text bold. Let me say, how can I put it? It is still on emphasis, I guess. Let me just make, let me say bold. To make a text bold, we use now two asterisks. Let me say this is a bold text or a paragraph text. Then when you close it with the two asterisks, then it will automatically be, the bold text. When you do a run, it will be a bold text. And of course, just like in the italic, you can do it. You can as well use, two underscores. Two underscore, and then I say this is also this is also a bold text. This is also a bold text. When you run, it will be okay. I didn't do a line break there, so you should add the line break there so that at least you may split some lines. Doesn't go to continuous. Now, so this is about the formattings. Let me talk also about the list. For example, in your project, you might want to list maybe the itineraries, or how can I put it, the breakdowns of your project in a list format. So I think it can also be important to understand the concept of list. So let me just say lists. So for list, to define a list, we use the hyphen. Is it a dash or a hyphen in your keyboard, that thing? Then you can say item. So we have two kind of list. We have the ordered list. We have the let me say ordered list, and then also we have an ordered list. So I should have begun with the an ordered list. So for an ordered list, you use the the hyphen. It will be in bullet format in execution, but to define it, you use the hyphen, and then let's say item 1, then hyphen, for example, item 2. So it will be a list of 2 items when you do a run. You can see it is now in bullet format. So you might also want to have a sub list. So in that case, you just create an indentation or a white space here at the start. Then you can do again, let me say sub item. Sub item. I don't know why it's let me try to run. I think I'm writing something else. Oh yeah, it's working. So sub items, an item inside another item. The sub items. For example, if you have a list, but inside the list you want to include some. For example, if you are doing the it's called what, the research paper, those academic writings, you want to do those headings, such stuff, you can use the same things. But remember, this one is just for simple formatting. For complex, you can use HTML, and we are not going to that. Now, the next category is ordered list. So for example, if you want to include an ordered list, these are the things that are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, or Roman 1, Roman 2, Roman 3, and so forth. So you use you just use a number. You just say 1, and then let's say item 1. Then you say 2, then you say item 2. Item 2, and then let's try to add in some sub items with Roman. So here I'll say Roman 1, and then I'll say, sub item, item stuff. Let me try to run. I didn't, this one, I think it has failed to work. Let me try to, or let me use again this one. This one I guess it will work. Oh yeah, you can see 1, 2, 3, but now this one need to begin with A, B, C, D. So this is how you can create a sub list in the ordered list. And I believe you've understood the concept there. So I can go to the other thing. I want to give you the basics that mostly people will use. The commands that people will use. For example, in your project, you want also to include a link. Let me show you how you can do that. So I'll say links. And this one is also important, especially if you want to push your project on GitHub. You can as well use these skills to do that. So for links, you begin with just a normal square bracket, and then the link text. The link text. So this is the thing that I want to be displayed. So like sometimes someone can have a very, very nice text about a link, but the link is quite horrible. Like a link is, the text is quite catching, but it directs you to something else. So that is the link. For example, when you go to, for example, something like a name tag, when you click on this start course, so this is the link text. But now what is in the background, what it will direct you, that's the link URL itself. So when you click on this starter course, this is the text, but now the link that directs you to the starter course page, that is the URL. So here I'll say, where was I? Where was I? Okay. Yeah, here. So we begin with the link text. The link text. I said to use the square brackets. Then let me see. This is a nice link. Let me say something else. Or let me be descriptive. Let me say name tag. Let me say name tag, and then again you close with this square bracket, the closing of the square bracket, and then you, for a link now, the URL itself, use it inside there, and the parentheses. It is in this, should be in this format, HTTP or HTTPS, HTTPS, and then hypertext transfer protocol with a secure extension, because we have the SSL certificate there. And then this is a colon, then two first slashes, then let's say nametech.com, and then now when I execute, it will be a text. You can see now it is a text, and when I click on it, it directs me to the name tag. That's why sometimes people can clone a link with this shortener, URL shortener, but it's a phishing site. Remember, some links, when you just click on it, it automatically exposes your data to maybe to the hacker, or maybe to that unauthorized personnel who is trying to access your data. So a best way to check a link before clicking, like you can see when you try to have on it, you can see there at the bottom on this side, these are the bottom left. When you hover, it will, I don't know if you can see, but there'll be a link there at the bottom so that you can tell. So sometimes someone can clone a link, someone can make some catchy description about the link or a text, but when you click on it, then it takes you maybe to a very, very bad website. I don't want to use something, wanted to say something, but those sites that are not good, good site. For example, those immoral sites, or maybe a phishing site, that exposes your data and that someone can access. Like don't want to go into that, but basically you understand. Like if you click on this link, you can see it automatically takes me to the nametech.com. So this is about the link, and maybe the other thing that I can talk about is the image. For example, if you are doing the visualization, your project you just push in GitHub, but in the MD, in the Markdown, you want to to give some breakdown or maybe to list for people to showcase some of the project, how it was done, how it was, how it was done, visualized. Then you can add a screenshot or images. Let me do this. Let me go to a site and I download an image somewhere. Let me go to freepik.com and I have 4 minutes remaining. When it reaches, if I'm not aware, you just notify me. So let me say, let me just say data science. Let me just download anything here to use. Let me just download anything, any image. Like this one sounds interesting. Are we still together? Are you able to hear me still? Are people following?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I've just downloaded an image and then I've included it on this tutorial folder, a file called data.webp. So I want to maybe to display that image to people maybe in my display. I want to showcase this project. Maybe I did some visualization that it was so nice. I want to make people understand my effort on that project. I want to give them like an overview or maybe some some outputs on that project. So basically, I'll do this. I'll again just like in the URL, but now the difference here, you begin with the exclamation, and then you followed with just like in the URL. In fact, let me do this. Let me just copy everything here, and I'll change. So you can see you begin with this exclamation. You begin with the exclamation, and then followed by the opening of the square brackets. And then now the image itself. Sometimes you can have an image, but for some reasons the image is deleted. So you might want to leave a text there so that the people will be viewing the your project. They can assume that the image that was there was a screenshot about your project. So you can leave there an alternative text so that people who will want to access that image but it is deleted, the text can be somehow, I can tell them that the image that was here. I'll show you. Let me just do it in action so that you can understand. Let me say alternative text to image or anything. And then now here you define now the image. Remember, it should be in the same format that you defined there. So mine, it was, I think, data dot webp. Let me just confirm, I'm not sure. So mine is data dot webp, and then again here data dot webp, and then I can do this. Let me try to run. Then now you can say I have these images now being displayed here. So basically, this is how you can visualize your code. And I have 1 minute. Can I continue, guys? I finish maybe just these markdown commands. Can you allow me just to finish these markdown commands? I think I have around 4 and I'll finish because I see it's already 22. I need your consent, or if we have to stop it, then I continue the other time, and just let me know.
Yes.
All right. So let me just let me just try to finish these markdown commands because it can be helpful for someone. Maybe. So this was about the images, and then maybe sometimes you want to display some code. For example, you want to do a breakdown. Like what usually ChatGPT do, I think I close that page. Like I can say, for example, you want to provide something that someone can just do a copy paste. You want to provide a code. in your Markdown, you want to provide some snippets to show that this command, for example, if you want to do a documentation about, for example, how to, you've created your API, and then I want to give people some some documentation on how they can use it, how to install, how to use it. Basically, you can do the Markdown for that code. To do a single line code, code, you just begin with a backtick. Backtick is this thing near the escape key on your keyboard. Escape key at the bottom. If your keyboard is like mine, this thing, I think, let me try to zoom in. This thing like the quote, but it points backward, the backtick, that thing. So I just write there and then I say, let me just use something like a hello world. Let me just use a Python function. Print, and then let me say, a string. Let me say hello, hello world, hello Kenya, hello Uganda, hello there. So, and then you close again with the backtick, the same backtick. Now, when you run, it will be like a code, like someone can just tell this is. You can see it is different from other text. But now, for example, if you have something descriptive, some bunch of code there, you want to execute. So the first thing that you want to do, you'll use the three backtick. Let me run here a command so that I think we can understand better on ChatGPT. So let me say, let me close some, how can I do that? Let me say, let me just run ChatGPT here. Write for me Python program to print hello world, just as an example. So I don't know, it's generating an image. I don't know. Oh, okay. So like you can see here at the top, it gives me what? This is a part where it is written Python, then at the code, and then you can be able to copy. So how you can generate this one? It is this way. So to this one, you just use three backticks. Then I say, for example, if it's Python, just write there Python. Then let's say, let me use something like, let me create a variable, like I say, fruits. Let me use fruits. And then I'll assign here to some list. We shall talk about these lists perhaps maybe if we'll have a time. We shall talk about these stuffs maybe the other time. Then for example, let me type here my favorite fruits. It should be banana. Banana is a string. And then also let me use something like apple. Apple, and also I like also cherry. And then let me close this list, and then let me say print then I want to print that fruits. So this thing I don't want to execute, but I just want to display it to people like this is the first, or I could have used for example, the first program is to install something, to do a PIP install something. So let me try to run first of all. You see what I'm trying to, it's not working the way you wanted it to display. Let me see what could be the problem here, and then I'll show you. I don't know exactly why it's not. All right, you can see there's some indentation, there's some spaces there to show that it is a code, but it's not bringing it in a format that. But if it were on GitHub, you could tell that is kind of more. But this is, you can see now the colors and everything is defined there. But if you could go to GitHub, let me use an example. For example, GitHub. It will structure it well. The format like what you don't have to log in and do that those things. But basically, this is how you can have multi-line, multi-line code if you want to display the code. You can see the structure is different, the colors it is colored. But if it were on GitHub, you could do the copy. You can copy, and also it will display. But there you can see also it doesn't display here at the top like it's Python and stuff. You can see it doesn't display also those backticks. So basically, this is how you can do the multi-line code. Now basically maybe the last thing that I can talk about maybe is a table. You want to have a table in your in your markdown. So to create a table, we use the pipe. The vertical line here is called pipe, I think. And then let's say, for example, you want to have a header. It will be header. Let's say header 1, and then another pipe, then let's say header 2. So basically what the pipe does, it's add a separator for columns. And then let's add here like and this was header 2, then at the closing of that pipe. And then now the second thing will be what will be like a row, a line. You know how tables are, like the line below. So in that case, you again use the pipe. Then I just use this hyphen. Then here you can type it there, another pipe. And then here again you can add in the hyphens up to that point. Then you can create also another pipe. So and then now the next cell. Remember, this one is a lot of work. This is not for powerful formatting, but it is just for basics. Let's say, for example, let me say content 1, and then let's say content 2, and then I'll do this one, and then let me try to run. You see how it will look like. So now you can see it is a table. That's not like an official table, but you can get the idea. Different platform usually display it in a different way. Like, I don't know, if I could have opened the GitHub, I could show you how it will be displayed, but you can see, send it's kind of a table. Although it doesn't have these things, but I can see it's kind of different from other stuffs. So basically, that's how you create, a table. Of course, we have many other things. How to do the line through. For example, you want to cross something, the text, and to add the escape keys, and many other things. I don't want, or maybe you want to add in the subscript, superscript, and many other things. I don't want to go into that, but basically this is a basic, the basic markdown commands that I think can be useful on your coding journey, because you will be pushing projects on GitHub. You'll be pushing projects on GitHub, or maybe you'll be collaborating with other people, and I want to have something descriptive that can help them understand your project, so that they don't have to take the whole day to analyze your code and understand what which function does and all that. So they just read the documentation there, then they'll understand, then it can speed up the production, the production. So and also maybe the other thing about on coding that you can use is something called the docstring. Docstring is also very fundamental, but now that one doesn't apply in the markdown. So for docstring, let's say, for example, you have a code here. You want to have the breakdown on what you're going to do. So here you can use the multi-line comments. It is called the docstring, documentation string. This thing, you just use let me use how many are there? It should be something 3. 3. They're called what? Quotes. Is it quotes, or in primary we used to call it speech marks? So those things, and then you can add here your let me say this in this program, and then a program I was printing hello world, hello world. And then I close it with the same three quotes. I think 3 quotes. And then here you can add in the code. Let me say now write the code, and then let me say print print print, let me say hello world. Let me say hello world. Maybe if I can in a few just talk about some what the syntax in Python are, or how Python works. Basically, Python, the one thing about Python is like it is case sensitive. Like for example, if you write here print function, you can see when you run, it will work. But if you write here print with caps, it won't work. Like if you say print, it's a different thing in Python. You can see it will give you an error. You can see is not a defined function. So it is case sensitive. Also, it applies in variables. So for example, if you've written a variable, for example, let me use this one. Let me say x, then assign a value. Now in Python, when you're using the equal operator, you're not equating. You are assigning a value to a variable. Like for example, when you say x equals 2, you're not equating. You are assigning this 2 to this variable x. So let me execute x. So let me say x. Let me say print x. So you can see this one will just run okay. But now when I use here x, capital X, it will have issues. You can see it has issues. But for instance, if I had some indentation, though it should be, I don't know if it will work. Let me see. Let me just type here a correct command here. But now I've added the indentation. Now, what is the indentation? Indentation is the space that you leave between the margins of your code, maybe on your cell, and then at the character, where the character begins. So this white space here is what we call the indentation. So when you have indentation, Python considers in the indentation very, very important. For example, if you have a function, so once you define a function, so the next line of code it should have an indentation, or if you're working with the for loops. I think we shall talk about these things maybe in future, but just know that Python is very sensitive to cases, and also it is very sensitive to the indentation. Like if I remove this space, when I run this program, it will just execute very well. But when I add in the indentation, you see it throws the error, the indentation error issue. So it is very important that you understand these things, these basic things. And also maybe the other thing about the comments. So this I was talking about the docstring. The docstring is if you want to add in the multi-line comments, you want to add in a very detailed description, the breakdown before you write a code. You can say, for example, in this project I was trying to install a different package, a certain package. So you just write in a detailed documentation, and then you can say, for example, this is a pip install Jupyter. This was to install notebook. Pip install notebook. This was a command to install the Jupyter notebook. You can add in something detailed and long. And then now in the code, once you are writing the code, you can also try to explain your codes. Like so the first one, you can, to create a comment here, you can use a hash. Now this hash is not like the ones in Markdown, like to create the headings. When you use a hash, this is the command in Python to define that this one is a comment. It won't be executed. It won't be executed. So like for example, say so this line I defined a variable and assigned a value to it. So someone can understand what this line does, and then here I can say the print function can be used is used is used here to execute the code at the console, at the console or at the terminal. So this is what we call the inline comments. So you can have a bunch of codes. They want to make people understand your code quite easily. So you can have maybe the markdown. So markdown is like a general overview of your project. Then in the code itself, you begin with a breakdown of what you're going to do in this project. And then now when you are writing out the code itself, you can add in these the comments. So this one, they just help people understand what the code does and all those stuff. Is so you can see when you try to run, it won't execute these things. It is assumed to be the comments. And for example, if you don't want to execute a code, you can now switch from code. We've talked about the markdown, we've talked about the code, and also we have something called raw. You don't want to execute, for example, these things. I don't want to execute them. I don't want to execute. Maybe someone would want to use this Jupyter notebook so that they may understand these codes. You can just switch here to the raw. So this one won't be executed. You can see it just when I do a run, it will just create a new cell. It won't execute this code. Let me zoom out a bit. Yeah. So I believe this was just a walkthrough on this Jupyter notebook. I believe someone has learned something, unless there's a question. And I'm sorry guys, I told you I was to stop at 10, but it seems it wasn't enough. We had a lot. In fact, in my list I used to cover a lot, but in fact I haven't even finished the introduction part where I was going to introduce to you Python. And this one I've just introduced to you how these you can switch, you can toggle between the code, markdown, and raw, and all these stuff. So I haven't even begun the Python. In fact, I've just talked about the comments and stuff. There's a lot on Python we can learn, but it seems I didn't have time for that. So up to this point, maybe you have a question, maybe concern, maybe I've talked about something that is not correct. You can correct me. I'm not. We are fellow learners, so you can just say anything. Hello there. People are here. Have you learned something? This one was confusing. It was out of scope. It was out of context.
Yes, we've learned a lot, the basics, and maybe to utilize those notebooks.
Yes. Okay. So I know you guys, especially those in data science, you've learned these things. But this one I was assuming that I have a beginner in the call, so I was trying to make it clear for that guy. But we shall advance. We have a lot. I have a lot in Python. By there, I have some skills in Python, and I have a lot to share with you. But for the interest of a beginner, I had to do these things, and I'm so sorry for those who are intermediate, developers in Python or programmers. So so I think I'm done unless there's a question. And I believe maybe in our next session we have also another instructor or maybe another tutor that can help us as well, called Kevin. He will take us. Maybe I can leave it to him to handle the next session, maybe to handle Python and stuff. Those we have a lot in Python, like the variable, the data structure, and I see like the Explore AI team, they wanted us to learn everything in 1 week because based on the content there, they have covered the data structures, they have covered the functions, They have covered arrays. They have covered many things within that week based on the content that I read. I just walked, checked on the content there, and I saw they've talked on many things that you need to learn a lot on them. Like for example, something like strings. Something like strings, it is very detailed, but what I saw there, they just gave us some few things there and there. And then we have also some conditions in Python, like we have those loops. We have many things like Python inheritance, the polymorphism, the scope. Like I don't think they could go to function if they had not covered the basic things here that I think it should be very important for a beginner. However, we are together. We shall learn from each other. We shall learn from each other, and so our next instructor will be Kevin. He's the one that will take us through maybe the Python basics I was to cover, but it seems I'm not good in time. So I think he'll help us on that. Yeah, maybe if he's in the meeting, he can try to maybe say to greet us and tell us that he'll be the next instructor, tutor tomorrow.
Hi. So this will be my first session. I've learned a bit of Python before, just introduction, but now I've become more serious in it, learned a lot. Actually, my background from software, I learned a bit of software development after campus. Then thought I need to go back to my data because my data seemed to interest me more than software. That's why I decided to join Alex. So yeah, tomorrow I'll be covering a bit of Python as we learn together. I'm also learning. You're also learning. So I don't know. Nehemiah, would you have a specific area that you need me to cover in detail, or do I just go with what we had in the content in the week?
But I just checked on the content in the Explorer that dashboard, and I saw they've just did something randomly, and they didn't go into details on stuff. So I don't know if you can do a profound walkthrough on, for example, Python syntax. Maybe talk about the variables in details, the data type. You talk about the numbers in details, how to cast strings. Those are data structures and some functions, and the methods.
So
You can do that, right?
yeah, sure, definitely I can do that.
All right. So basically,
see you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much. So I return it to the moderator.
Thank you for that session, Nehemiah, and thank you, Kevin. I believe